Remember Kenny Rogers? The man with the soulful voice, the white beard, and those songs that hit you right in the heart. He was a music legend, selling over 100 million records, winning awards, and touching lives around the world. But behind the fame was a man who carried deep pain, failed marriages, broken friendships, and a childhood filled with struggle. Kenny's life wasn't always as smooth as his voice, and in his final days, he quietly battled illness far from the spotlight. Join us as we look back at Kenny Rogers' unforgettable journey and the heartbreaking way his story came to a close. A tough beginning in Houston. Chapter 2. A tough beginning in Houston. Kenny Rogers was born on August 21, 1938 in Houston, Texas. He was the fourth of 8 children. His mother, Lucille, worked as a nurse's assistant. His father, Edward, was a carpenter. Kenny once said they were broke. They lived in a government housing project meant for white families, which had replaced homes of families of color. Times were hard, but they survived. Kenny went to Wharton Elementary, George Washington Junior High, and later finished from Jefferson Davis High School in 1956. That was a big deal because, as he said on the Phil Donah Show, I was the first person in my family, as far back as we know, to graduate from high school. He worked odd jobs while growing up. He swept floors in a hat shop for just $9 a week. He also worked as a busboy at the Rice Hotel. In 1949, he even won a talent show at the Texan Theater. That was one of the first signs that music might take him somewhere. But growing up, Kenny faced real hunger. He said, "I don't think I was ever really hungry. I always had food to eat. But there's no question that our family was nutritionally deprived at times. We'd eat peanut butter sandwiches 'cause that's all there was." Even then, Kenny didn't complain. He believed many kids around him were living the same way. So, while Kenny's songs later filled stadiums, his childhood was full of struggle, both emotional and financial, and the people around him never forgot it either. You see, Kenny grew up in Houston's 4th Ward, a rough neighborhood where trouble was always close. His brother Roy once said, "We were poor. There's no doubt about that." His sister Sandy added, "We struggled, you know, but we had faith that we would make it through." Faith was important to the whole family. It helped them survive some dark days. Kenny's childhood was also shaped by the people in his neighborhood. Even though life was hard, there was still kindness. Years later, when Kenny became famous, he didn't forget those who helped him. In the 1970s, he found out that a former neighbor was struggling and couldn't afford to fix her car. She needed $600. Kenny didn't just help. He changed her life. He sent her $20,000 and a note that read, "Thank you for helping me pay my rent years ago." It wasn't just about the money. It was about remembering where he came from. Kenny never acted like he was better than anyone. And that's what made fans love him even more. His deep friendship with Dolly Parton also came from that shared pain. Both had tough upbringings, but instead of letting it break them, they turned it into something powerful. Dolly and Kenny were close for decades. Some thought they were more than friends, but Kenny always said they were just two people who understood each other deeply because they both knew what it meant to struggle. The father he couldn't understand. Kenny's childhood wasn't just marked by poverty. His father. Chapter 3. The father he couldn't understand. Edward struggled with alcohol. In his 2012 book, Luck or Something Like It, Kenny spoke openly about it. He shared that he never touched alcohol himself, not because he didn't want to, but because he was scared he'd become like his father. He believed addiction might run in the family. That fear kept him away from drinking for his entire life. But even with all his success, there was one thing that haunted Kenny. He said, "I never really got to know why my dad drank. He was an alcoholic." But during that time post-World War II, a lot of people were unemployed and ended up drinking. He couldn't really support his family. And I think it just broke him down. It breaks my heart that I didn't know that before he passed away. That regret stayed with him. But instead of letting it destroy him, Kenny used it to help others. He picked up photography, something to keep him busy in between tours, and used his experience to understand people dealing with addiction. He didn't judge them. He had seen it too closely to do that. His music, his friendships, and even his silence in hard times came from these deep wounds. But those same wounds also helped him connect with fans from all walks of life. From jazz clubs to psychedelic hits, Kenny Rogers began chasing music dreams in the late 1950s. Chapter 4. His Music Career. At first, it was small steps. His solo song, That Crazy Feeling, got some attention in 1957. But when the buzz faded, Kenny didn't give up. Instead, he joined a jazz group called the Bobby Doyle Three. They had loyal fans and often played at clubs. The group even got a deal with Columbia Records. Still, it didn't last forever. They broke up in 1965. After that, Kenny tried again. He recorded a solo song called Here's That Rainy Day with Mercury Records in 1966, but it didn't do well either. During this time, he also worked behind the scenes, writing, producing, and playing music for other artists like Mickey Gilley and Eddie Arnold. In 1966, Kenny took another shot at fame. He joined a folk group called the New Christie. Chapter 5. The First Edition. Minstrels. He sang and played bass, but the group wasn't bringing in the kind of success Kenny hoped for. So, in 1967, he and 3 other members, Mike Settle, Terry Williams, and Thelma Camacho, decided to leave. They formed a new band called the First Edition. Later, Kinvasi joined them. That group brought Kenny his first real breakthrough. Their hit Just Dropped In to See What Condition My Condition Was In became popular. The song had a wild psychedelic sound and Kenny's deep voice made it unforgettable. It even appeared years later in the movie The Big Lebowski. But this was just the beginning. After success with the First Edition, Kenny slowly became the face of the band. With songs like Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town and Reuben James, they started leaning more toward country music. But in 1975 or 1976, the group broke up. Kenny decided it was time to go solo again. This wasn't an easy step. He was already in his late 30s, and that became a problem. As he shared with Rolling Stone, record labels kept turning him down. They said he's too old for country music. That rejection hurt, but Kenny didn't let it stop him. He stayed focused. At one point, he was performing at a small lounge in Las Vegas with only 600 seats. That's when Steve Wynn, who had booked him, told Kenny something shocking. He said he would fire him, not because he wasn't good, but because Kenny had the talent to go much further. He wanted Kenny to chase bigger dreams. Kenny finally got his big solo break thanks to producer Larry Butler. Together, they made the song Lucille. It became a massive hit. Kenny even won a Grammy for it. He didn't forget the people who helped him. He thanked Butler during his Grammy speech, knowing that without him, he might never have made it. This win opened the door to even more hits, and Kenny never looked back. The voice that crossed every line. After Lucille, Kenny Rogers became a giant in both country and pop music. He had more